Happy New Year everyone, and welcome back to another devlog of my game Project F.U.N. This is a special devlog because it also marks the game's first anniversary. Over the past 2 months, the progress has been phenomenal. I have added exciting new features and improved the visuals. Figuratively speaking, I felt like I was running. Alright, so let's get started. For those that are new to the channel, I am Kamran Wali and I am solo developing my game Project F.U.N, which stands for Firearm Unleashing Nonsense. It's a shoot 'em up FPS game with permadeath. So once you're out, you are out. There is no coming back. Well, you can by starting all over again. The game is also going to be like roguelite, so some upgrade will carry over to the next gameplay. There will be a lot of bullets flying around in the game, which will make you constantly move around. You can also use different weapons at the same time, and they will be randomly generated during gameplay. Earn in-game coins to unlock new weapons and skills. Every stage will also be random, keeping the game fresh and exciting. The first thing I did was improve the player weapon. As mentioned in previous devlogs, I aimed for a diegetic aiming system and now it is implemented. The pointer on the screen is a 3D object, which is actually Godot's GPU particles 3D. The laser is also a 3D cylinder object, which changes size with the distance of the pointer. Also added my Fresnel shader effect to the laser to make it feel a bit more realistic. Later I will improve the pointer a little bit to make it more easier to find during intense moments. I have also added 2 more monitors to the weapon. The chemical tube indicators were replaced with a diegetic UI monitor. I ditched that because to me that was not matching with the rest of the weapon's theme, and it was difficult to understand how much health or XP the player had left. In this new diegetic UI, the player can understand the health, XP and level info instantly. Also, it matches with the overall theme of the weapon. The second monitor is the mini weapon and mod selection monitor. This monitor is activated when the player levels up. The player can then choose what type of mini weapon and mod to add to the main weapon. In this case, it is the normal mini weapon, which is the blue chamber that is being selected. You will also notice that each mini weapon comes with a positive or negative stat, which I am calling mods. These mods add to the overall stat of the player. So when a mini weapon has been selected, it will show on the monitor which one was selected. The monitor will go back to its default state and the mini weapon will come out from the blue chamber. I gave a visual effect to show that the mini weapon is slowly being materialized. Also, there is a time limit for selecting a mini weapon. The timer is the bottom bar in the monitor. Once the timer runs out, a random mini weapon will be selected. When the player levels up again, the next mini weapon will be the experimental mini weapon type, which is the green chamber. These green mini weapons are more powerful than the blue ones. They have special abilities as well, like explosion and homing into the enemy. Like before, when you select a weapon, the mod stats will be added to the player and the experimental mini weapon will come out from the green chamber. So after each level up, the mini weapon selection for the next chamber will be available and it goes in an anti-clockwise direction. Basically, there are 3 blue chambers and 1 green chamber. Also, I'm thinking that the max level for the player should be 50, and when a new stage starts, the player level will be resetted back to 1. Okay, now let's talk about the leveling system in Project F.U.N. The player levels up by destroying enemies. When an enemy has been destroyed, it drops an XP and sometimes HP items. These items will travel to the player and also be absorbed by the player. The more difficult the enemy, the more XP and HP value it will drop. When the total XP collected reaches a certain threshold, only then will the player level up. When the player levels up, the mini weapon selection process begins. I have already explained previously in the video how the mini weapon selection works. In future, I will add a slow-mo buff effect to the player and give visual cues when the player has leveled up. That way the player will have some time to decide which mini weapon to select. Finally, I have also added camera shake to the game. With the current state of the game, I decided that it was a good time to add the camera shake. The camera shake works with both force and distance. So the closer you get to the source of the camera shake object, the stronger the shake. Alright, now let's talk about the stage. I'm sure you all have probably noticed by now that the stage has been improved. It is no longer the brown blank stage. The stage upgrade was necessary because now I can create and test new features. Finally, I have used my plugin called Duniya Skapare to generate the stage. Duniya Skapare is a plugin that uses wave function collapse to generate worlds. If you are interested in how Duniya Skapare works, then I have made a tutorial on how to use it. I will add the link to the Duniya Skapare tutorial and GitHub in the description below. Using Duniya Skapare makes sure that a stage will never be similar. This is because of the wave function collapse algorithm. So once you restart the stage, it will be totally different. These are the 3D models of the tiles that I have used. The entire stage is made only using these models. I did not need to create different rotations of the tiles because Duniya Skapare already fixes the rotation of a tile while placing it. Also, these are the rules for each tile. The wave function collapse uses these rules to create the game world and fix the tile rotations as well. I used my state machine system to first generate the data for the game world using Duniya Skapare and then placing the tiles in the game world. Using a state machine here was a good choice because in the future I can give different ways to add the tiles to the game world. In this stage, the world is being generated one tile at a time and the tiles are materialized and then falls down to the correct place. When the tile is placed in the game world, a camera shake is triggered. This is to signify the weight of the tile and also a visual cue that tells the player a tile has been placed nearby. In future, for different stages, I will give different ways to add tiles to the game world. For some tiles, I have also added the turret interactive object. Just wanted to see how it will work and I'm happy to say that it is working perfectly and as expected. Also, if you fall off the stage, then you will be resetted back to the first tile, which is the main tile, and 50% of your health will be deduced as punishment for falling off. If you fall off the stage when your health is 50 or below, then it will instantly kill you. While trying to figure out what to do with the sky, I came across Godot's sky shader. This was really fun to use. I used the shader to create the current sky effect for the game. So far the sky shader looks really nice, but in future I will add more sky shaders depending on the stage theme. I have added a black hole VFX in the bottom of the stage. This is to signify that death awaits if you fall down and that the world is in a chaotic or corrupted state. For the center of the black hole, I used a sphere with my Fresnel shader. For the accretion disk, I simply used a plane with texture. I used 3 accretion disk texture and gave each one a rotation. The one closer to the black hole rotates faster, while the one farthest away rotates slowest. Finally, I have used Godot's GPU particle 3D for the particles spinning into the black hole. Combining all of this seems to give an acceptable effect of the black hole. I have also created a new enemy, which is the hover enemy. As I said before, I am trying to keep a theme with the enemies, which is that the main body will mostly remain the same. So for this enemy type, I have created a small hovercraft with a mounted weapon. Also, I have made sure that the weapon is hooked up to the attaching points in the enemy's main body. Basically, this enemy hovers towards the player and keeps firing its weapon. I also gave the hovercraft a bit of heaving effect so it goes up and down like a boat. Also, the bullets fired are pool objects and thus are recycled to save performance. Making this enemy also confirmed to me that the new system in place can be used to create ranged enemies, which is a plus point. I also made another new enemy, which is a melee type. I had really fun making this enemy and coding it in the game. This time I made sure the enemy is a bit larger just to see how it will look and feel in the game world. So far I'm liking the huge colossal feeling this enemy gives. For this enemy, I had to model the body parts separately because I decided that the upper body and the arms can be controlled through script, while the legs of the enemy can be controlled using animations. Also, this is how the rigging of the legs looks like. I did add some animations to it which were needed in the game. Another reason for making this enemy is to see if my state machine system can create some complex enemy types which will later be needed for boss enemies. I'm happy to say that it is indeed possible to do so. This enemy has a bit of complexity to it. In total, it has about 5 state machines working, and each of them works one at a time. The reset state machine makes the enemy come back to the default state so that any previous animation or body part placement is resetted and does not look weird later on. The move state machine just moves the enemy towards the player, but it does have a little bit of intelligence to it. Here it can decide what type of attack can be carried out. For now, the decision is made based on the distance between the player and the enemy. The normal attack state machine just slams down the 2 hammers. This is the most common attack type for this enemy. Even though the damage it does here is not that much, the attack is fast, and if the player does not dodge away in time, it will most likely hit the player. This attack is designed to slowly chip away the player's health. The next is the spin attack state machine. Here the enemy goes into the spin position and then slowly starts to spin its weapons. If ever the player gets caught in the attack range of this phase, then the enemy can do a lot of damage to the player. Also added some particle effects to make it look like the attack has some weight to it. Later we'll add some slashing shader effects to make the move look a bit more better. Finally, the next one is the jump attack state machine. I really had fun making this one. Here the enemy jumps up and then slams its weapons to the ground, causing a mini explosion. I have also added some visual effects for the slam effect, and I would say it is looking kinda decent. Later we'll add a slashing shader effect here as well. This is the highest damage for this enemy and does a lot of damage both to the player and other enemies. This is also the first enemy attack that does damage to other enemies as well. This attack will also help the player to strategize how to use this slam attack on other enemies, but must be very cautious while doing so. I have also added area 3D colliders to the different body parts of the enemy. This is to make sure that only the body parts of the enemy gets hit and not the gap area. I have also created the enemy generator using my state machine system. After a certain time, enemies will be generated into the game world. When the player levels up, then more difficult enemies will be generated. That is it for this devlog. By next devlog, I will try to add toon shader to the game because I feel like the toon shader will look the best for the game. I will also try to give a bit more intelligence to the enemy movement because as of now, they just come straight to the player. Maybe we'll add the hub world by the next devlog as well, which will open up adding upgradable features later on. Also, we'll try to add the sound as well. I believe if I get these features done, then most of the core features of the game will be completed, and then I can focus on creating more 3D content and start on making features for the storytelling part. Alright, please like and subscribe because that will help me out a lot, especially with the YouTube algorithm. Also, let me know what you think about the game thus far in the comment section below. Anyway, take care, stay safe, and chaos!